Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of What Do You Do podcast. My name is JJ Vola, the host, and alongside me is my co-host, Cal Vola. We are cousins, and we are seeking to interview people on what they do. Biggest thing is that we're finding out a lot of people are having troubles diving into what they want to do into their career. You know, one of the biggest things that we're trying to achieve is to interview people on what they do, what their success stories or failures, and what they've gone through life to hopefully be as successful as they are today and 10 years to come.
So we want to find out what you do, why you do it, how you do it, whether or not you had to go to school for it, the obstacles, the challenges you faced, the successes that you've had, the failures on your way to your career.
Like the video, hit subscribe, hit the notification too, in case you don't want to miss out on any future videos. But today we're going to dive into our first guest of today. Thank you for coming on to the show.
You're welcome. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me. Yeah, my name's Jesse Davis.
Nice. And we're just a quick little debrief. Like, where were you born? Where'd you grow up?
Cool. Yeah, so I was actually born in Richmond Hill. And then like very shortly after that moved to Keswick, Ontario. So I grew up in Keswick, Ontario. It's like a super small town. It's getting a little bigger now, but it was like really the middle of nowhere when I grew up there. It's very like white and, dare I say it, like hick sort of town. But
right.
Yeah, it's really come up. We got a Walmart now. So
yeah, that's funny. Actually, we said in the last episode, if you have a Walmart, then you're good. Then you're
you're
a small town.
It was like the biggest thing. Like the town got a Walmart, and like we're like this is lit now. Like, everything you want. You used to have to drive to Newmarket to like get anything that wasn't like an essential, basically, and Walmart really like changed that. It actually happened, I think, after I moved away. I moved away when I was 13. I moved in with my father in Oakville. Yeah, it's grown a lot since then, but you know, I never thought of it as like the best place at the time. I was very happy to move to Oakville. I was like looking at the stats of like the high schools, and out of like 500 high schools, it was ranked like 450th or something for stats of like the students for like testing and everything like that. And you know, I knew I wanted to like not be a loser, so I was like, right. I gotta like, you know, get like at least a basic high school education. So sure. I was happy to move to Oakville, and you know, it was a big change. There was a Walmart there already when I got there, you know, and they had a mall and other stuff too. So that was a big change. I left to go to university at Guelph, U of G. I was literally there for 1 semester, 3 months. I went for studio art. I didn't learn like really anything at all when I was there, but I met some good friends.
And just out of curiosity, like, what was there a thing that you wanted to do when you were younger? Like, did you have a mindset of what you wanted to do when you were younger?
Yeah, when anyone asked me, like, since I think it was about 9 years old, I said I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
And that's what I'm doing now. So, you know, I definitely like knew what I wanted to do. When I was 11, I started performing magic shows.
Cool.
For money. I think I was making sometimes for a show, I would do a half hour for $50, or like I went to like festivals and stuff like that. Like I did the Richmond Hill Winter Carnival and like a couple other like festivals in Richmond Hill. And they paid me $100 an hour, and I was 11 years old, and I was like, "This is crazy," you know. And I still don't make $100 an hour now, so I could really learn something from 11-year-old me. Wow. Funny story actually is I remember when I left university, my mom was like, "Okay, like what do you want to do like with your life? Like what do you want to do for a career?" And I was like, I think I want to like go back into doing magic and like do that professionally. And she's like, oh my God, like you got to get serious. Like you got to get like a real job, like something that's going to actually like, pay you. Like it can't be that. So now I manage a tattoo studio, right? And I do the sales for a tattoo studio. And a lot of the tattoo artists there, they make a lot of money. They're charging up to like $2,500 a day for their work.
Wow.
For a recent Christmas party, I hit up a magician to ask him, hey, can you come to our party?
Right.
We couldn't afford the guy. He was like, yeah, I can do like 1 hour for you for $2,500.
Right.
And for 1 hour. And his costs are like nothing. And he's like, or I can do 2 hours for $3,500. And I was just like, yeah, sorry, we're broke. Like we can't afford that. Like, no way. But it brought me back to that moment when my mom was like, get serious, man. Like, you can't do that. You need something that's going to actually make you money. And I was like, well, turns out that could make you a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
I think no matter what you choose to do, if you do it very well, you can make a lot of money. There's also guys out there that I'm sure are charging like $100 an hour, like I was when I was 11 years old. So it comes down to like what you want to put into it and your own self-belief. But yeah, I just wanted to own a business. That's all I knew when I was like 9 years old. Yeah,
And different mindset too. I'm sure with your mom making that comment, right? In that, her life living, kind of growing up, everyone wanted to have that top job, like being a doctor, lawyer, or whatever the case was.
Yeah.
But finding in today's world, that you can take such a niche thing, and I'm sure a lot of magicians now don't even have to go out in front of crowds. I'm seeing a lot more magicians just doing it electronically.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it makes it
a
tough.
lot easier.
Yeah.
It makes it a lot easier when there's no real person watching you and you can set up the right camera angle and stuff like that.
You
But
don't know-
yeah, you don't even need to leave your house. You can just get good at something, stay home, make funny videos, and like make money on the internet. The world has definitely changed, and yeah, there's never been an easier time, I think, on the face of the planet to like be successful or be above average.
Right.
And all the opportunities we have now due to the internet, like those didn't exist before.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah. And also she just coming from like a bit of like a scarcity mindset, she wants you to get the secure job. Like I've had a lot of jobs over the years that I always thought were really great. And my family, like, they just, like, never thought it was cool. And, like, my brother, like, he works in a factory, which is, it's a great job and there's nothing wrong with that. But they admired that a lot more, I think, because of, like, the security that it provides. Like,
Yeah,
you're just going to show up to work, you're going to get a paycheck, go home, that's it.
Yeah.
Sure. It's like a real job, the consistency of that job sort of thing. And
Yeah.
It's, every week, you have those 40 hours sort of thing and whatnot. And it's crazy how that, how people view those types of jobs and entrepreneurs, man. Like you say, you're an entrepreneur and people are like, oh, so you're unemployed. Right?
Yeah.
So take us through like some of the other jobs that you had, Jesse, like growing up. What kind of led you to being in this space?
Yeah, so that one, just touch on being a magician briefly. Like that was monumental for me to like see, like, I don't know. I set up my first .com website when I was 11 as well, and that was like the coolest thing in the world to me. That like that made it like real. That made it legit for me. I was like, this is like a real company, and I realized I have like a love for entertainment, I suppose, at that time, which kind of carried with me through the rest of my life. My next, like, I had a bunch of like jobs, like a cashier at a grocery store or like making sandwiches at Subway in my like teenage years. And then when I left university, I worked with my brother at that factory for a little while. They make seats for Hondas, and I absolutely hated it. Thought I would move back to Oakville. I had a girlfriend there at the time, and I knew nobody out in Newmarket and Keswick, and I was like, I should move back to Oakville. So I got a little bedroom out there and started detailing cars. I found an auto detailing shop, went in there, applied, got the job, and then became the manager there and started realizing that, like, I guess that's when I realized that I liked like a management sort of role as well. It was a little bit at the time like of a power trip for me at 11, not 11, sorry, at 19. It would have been crazy at 11. But at 19, like all the other guys I was working with, they were like in their early 20s to like mid 20s, and like there was a bad part of me that was just, I loved having that power, like, go do this. So,
Right.
But that's not the part I realized I loved. I loved like having to actually run the company and be in control and like deal with all the customers, and I guess that's when I started in sales. Really, it's like it wasn't like a commission job or anything, but people would come in, ask to get their car detailed, and I would go and quote them and get them to say yes, and have to make like often negotiate with them. When I left that place, I was a service advisor briefly at a car dealership, a small car dealership in Oakville, and I saw all these car salesmen making money. All of them making way more money than me, and I was like, man, like I've got to learn that skill. And like none of these guys went to school, for this. They just decided they were going to do it. So I tried to get the dealership to put me into sales. They wanted me to stay where I was because it was a really small service department. I was the service advisor, and I don't even think there was like a service manager at the time. They like couldn't get one to stay on board. So it was like me running the service department, and they're like, no, we need you to stay here. So I went and applied at Leggett's. I applied at a bunch of car dealerships, but I got a job at Leggett Chevrolet, which is where I met JJ.
Yeah.
And yeah, I started selling cars there at 19. Yeah, I was very young, very obviously young, I would say, and a very bad salesman. I was such a bad salesman. I remember Sean would be telling me, he'd be like, yo, man, you have to stop letting people lead you around by your nose. They just say, I want to do this. Like, I don't want to drive the car. Like, show me this. And you just go, oh, okay. And like, you're just being an order taker.
Yeah.
And he's like, you got to just go, come with me and walk away. And they will follow you. You know, you're the professional. You have to know the process. I couldn't do that at the time because I had no confidence, right? Especially when all my customers, they're like 40, 50 years old, coming in to spend all this money. And like, I'm just this young, stupid kid, essentially. And I knew it. And I had no confidence. So I couldn't do that. I couldn't take control of the situation. But those pieces of advice, they rang true with me like over the years. Like, they're still in my head now. You know, the things that I heard from Sean, he was definitely giving me really solid advice. I just didn't know how to follow through on it. Also at the time, I was a total degenerate. I was like drinking every day, like smoking pot every day, and like that's just a recipe for disaster. I had a couple friends that were down on their luck. They were like, hey, can we like move, like sleep on like your couch or something for a little while? And that turned into like 6 weeks. And they were like much more degenerate than me. And after living with them for 6 weeks, I just had like a total mental breakdown. And I was like, I can't handle this. You know, being in a commission sales job also, when you have literally no savings whatsoever, is like super, super high pressure. And I don't recommend that for anybody. I mean, unless like you do have a super high degree of confidence, maybe you live with your parents or something and you don't have too many bills, then it's a great idea. But I was living, you know, in an apartment, trying to pay the rent, trying to buy food, trying to pay for my car, and had no savings and was trying to do it off 100% commission. And the mindset when you go in and you're like, I need this sale so badly, like it's the absolute wrong mindset to be in to sell something to someone, because they sense that from you, right? And they like, this guy is trying to like get my money. Like I don't want to give him my money, right? So it didn't work out so great for me there. I went to sell cars at another GM dealership like a couple hours east. And it started going a little better. I saw you talking about pickup trucks on your podcast, and you're like, that's where the money was, right? So I was in Trenton at McCurdy GM, and basically it's if you know Trenton, like it's the middle of nowhere, and basically they stocked like 80% pickup trucks. I think they had like the highest pickup truck allocation out of like any dealer, and all the guys that came in, they wanted trucks, and I didn't do so great there, but I did better. One time I remember, I had one client each day that walked under the lot that I spoke to, and for 7 days in a row, I sold a pickup. One of the days was a SUV, but I sold 7 cars in 7 working days. There was like a day off in between, and that month was just like, I think I didn't sell any other cars for the rest of the month, but it still was the best month I ever had. And I was still a terrible salesman. I left there because the owner pulled me into his office, and he's like, listen, man, you're just a stupid kid, man. Like, you don't listen to anything I tell you. Like, you're an absolute idiot. And I was just like, man, I'm out of here. But, like, really, I should have listened to that guy. And I wasn't used to the, like, harsh delivery that he gave, you know. I grew up mostly with my mom. I mentioned I moved in with my dad. I only lived with him for a few years. And then I moved out to finish high school, lived with a friend. I never had that, like, harsh, like, male, like, role model, you know, that he was like, listen, you're being an idiot. Like, stop being a stupid kid. Like, you need to listen to me. And I was just like, no one should talk to me like that. I'm out of here.
Right.
Yeah. After that, I ended up working at a restaurant. Actually, I working at my business partner's restaurant, Jeff.
How old are you now? So you finished doing car sales, truck sales.
So I was probably finished doing that when I was like 20, 21, something like that. And then I actually there was a period in between where I was trading foreign currencies, and I was doing well doing that.
Oh wow!
And when I was at GM, McCurdy GM, after I left Leggett's, I was living with my girlfriend's parents at the time, and I was just trading this small trading account. It was building up, and I was like, okay, like this is growing at the size that I know that I'll be able to like make money doing this, and like I'm gonna, you know, make this much by this day, and I'm gonna move out. So we did move out. I moved out, got this like condo, and bought a new car, and then my girlfriend bought a new car, and I ended up in the same situation I mentioned earlier, where I'm like, oh my god, like I need to make this money. Essentially, when you're trading, like there's no hourly paycheck, right? It's like you only make money when you make a good trade, and you get yourself in that mindset where you're like, oh my god, I need to make this money. So when things don't go as planned, you stray from the plan, which is what you should never do. And I was like, okay, well then I'm gonna like take this next trade because I need this money, and then lost again. And I was like, oh my god, like I need this money, I have to do this next trade, and then just literally blew it. That worked out not the way that I thought it would. I think if you're going to do something like that, you need to have like a solid financial foundation, at least savings. Probably you should also have a job. Like when you're in the mindset that you don't need money, it's very easy to make good decisions, you know, and not stray from the plan out of necessity to survive, you know? So yeah, I ended up doing like front of house at a restaurant, where that really took me out of my comfort zone, because I was sitting at home trading, like literally locked in a room, like 17 hours a day, not talking to anyone. I was going through like anxiety and depression at the time, and I just had like a crazy amount of social anxiety, and I didn't feel like I could talk to people at all. So when I got to be put in that role, I had to talk to so many people all day long, and it really sort of got me out of my comfort zone in that way, and made me realize again, like I'm able to talk to people quite well. And I learned a lot about just like keeping people happy, like how to make customers feel good, and like what they want from you. Eventually moved into managing a tattoo studio, which I've been doing for almost 2 years now. It's Bamboo Tattoo Studio in Etobicoke.
Okay.
It's one of the biggest tattoo studios in the country. It's a really, really amazing job. I started off there doing running the phones and sitting at the front desk, and I ended up being moved into, like, we hired some more people to run the phones, and I got moved into doing like marketing and like PR stuff and like brand collaborations and things like that. Unfortunately, the people that took over the phones, they couldn't do the same sort of sales I was doing. So I got put back into that role and do mostly sales, and then a little bit of like video marketing on the side. But yeah, I actually resigned a couple of nights ago. It is a fantastic job. It was a fantastic place to work. It really changed me as a human being.
And what was your roles and responsibility there? Like, were you actually, like, I know you said you were answering calls and stuff like that at the beginning, but did you end up wanting to be the tattoo artist yourself, or?
So that's interesting. So the reason why I ended up there is because I thought I wanted to become a tattoo artist. My plan was, I'm going to just like find any job that I can work that I'm not going to hate, and I'm going to do that for a couple of years while I like practice my drawing skills. Later, I learned that most tattoo artists can't even draw, which is it's not really about that. I was going through jobs on like LinkedIn, not LinkedIn, on Indeed or something like that, and I was looking at tattoo studios, because I figured if they're hiring for any other position, I can just get my foot in the door, get around people, and be exposed to people that are doing what I want to do, and like I'm gonna learn through exposure, right? So they were hiring a manager at Bamboo, and one of my best friends that I went to high school with, he worked there as a tattoo artist, and he'd been there for a couple of years, and he'd been doing very well for himself. So I called him and I said, listen, I'd actually met the owner like at a party or two of my friends. I said, call this guy, tell him that I'm interested in this job. And then I got his phone number, and I think I called him like every day, every 2 days for like 2 weeks, until finally he was like, okay, you can come for an interview. He was a super busy guy at the time. He just had a baby, and he just opened up another tattoo studio. So I came for the interview, I got the job, and then basically my roles and responsibilities there were just like open the studio every day, answer all the calls, you know, take deposits from all the clients, cash everybody out at the end of the day, you know, clean the studio in the morning, keep it tidy, stuff like that. And then the team expanded from there shortly after another person joined, and they just did kind of general management, and I did like all the business operations.
Right.
And then we added a couple more people to take over just like general tasks, so each of us could be more focused on what we were doing. And then someone was supposed to take over sales, but it didn't go so great. So I ended up going back into doing sales. What was really great about that is the time that I spent doing just marketing and just video content creation. I don't know how, but like when you sort of remove yourself from a situation, you gain some more perspective. You kind of have a better idea of how to attack it. So when I came back to doing it, I was much, much better afterwards. I kind of came up with like a different sales system to run on the phones in my head. When I tried it out, it was very successful. So yeah, now it's just, it's mostly just every day I come in, head downstairs to like a closed office. Everyone else takes care of like the customers and stuff like that. And I'm just on the phones, booking appointments, taking calls, helping people out, figuring out, how they're going to get their tattoos, etc. Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. So, I mean, when you first started there, like, how big was the shop? And then, like, basically you're leaving now.
Yeah.
Like, how did it grow over that time? Like, how big did it grow, sort of
Yeah,
thing?
I would say so. So when I came, it was just after COVID. So I was kind of like reviving like a dead company. In 2000, not dead, but in 2019, they had over 40 guest artists come to the studio, or I think over 40 artists, including our residents, which were probably about 10 resident artists. Okay. Now I'm booking for about 15 or so, tattoo artists. It's kind of hard to keep track, and I don't really care how many there is. Like, it's just I gotta get them all booked. So we're always inviting like new guests all the time, so it's kind of hard to keep track of. But I think we have like 10, 11 resident artists, and then like several people on their way over the next few months to do like a stay for like either a couple weeks or a couple months, something like that.
Yeah. Sorry for anyone out there that like is thinking about opening a tattoo shop or becoming a tattoo artist. Do you have like any advice for those guys? Like you enjoyed the industry, you go back to it, sort of thing? Or?
Yeah, just do it and work harder than everybody else. I think like no matter what industry you're in these days, like we live in like the laziest like generation of like the history of mankind. And I think if you just if you really apply yourself, you're gonna succeed. Everyone says that like like drawing, like that's a talent. Like I actually drew since I was in about grade 4, and I'm quite good at drawing. That's why I thought I should go into tattooing, because it's something I really like to do, and I'm quite good at. But I remember when I was in grade 4, I used to look at my hand and I'd put it in a different position every day and draw it in a different position as realistically as I could. And I did it at least one of those a day. I was drawing for like an hour, 2 hours every day for like a long time, right? And then people would be like, "Oh, you're so talented. You have this natural ability. I can't even draw a stick figure." And I was like, it's not talent. Everyone can do it. It's just like careful observation and patience to like not rush through what you're doing and do it correctly. So I think that there's a group of people out there that could just never get it and like never be so great at like doing realistic sort of artwork. That's what our studio focuses on, is we do realism. So there's a lot of like old school, like American traditional tats and like Japanese tats. We don't really do that as much. It does happen sometimes, but we're mostly focusing on doing realistic stuff, which takes some careful observation. And I accept there's maybe some people out there that might not have it in them, but I think that like 95% of people, if they want to do it and they really apply themselves, that they would do well. The important thing is to get a good teacher. You don't want to go to a shop where like none of the artists are really that great, because you're just going to learn bad habits from them, right? You want to go somewhere that there's at least one strong artist that you can watch and follow, and you just got to pay your dues and do everything you can to help them. And tattoo apprenticeships are kind of like dying out these days. There's people want to like guard the information very closely. I'm not very sure why, or they just like, it takes a lot to teach an apprentice. It really takes a lot of energy, and a lot of people just aren't willing or able to put that energy in. It is very difficult to get a tattoo apprenticeship.
And I'm sure a lot of business owners too are investing in a lot of younger generation just for them to show them the tricks, the trade, the pros, the cons, whatever the case is, just for them to leave and then go do their own thing, right? Because they want to be their own tattoo studio, whatever the case is, right? Yeah. So I'm sure, because that's what it was for me in the automotive industry. Like, it almost felt like, for business owners, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Because if you want him to be the best, to grow quick, you're going to teach him all the best things just for him to go somewhere else and get an extra $1 an hour. But just to touch base on what you were saying, so it's cool to think that, when you were younger, you had a hobby of drawing, right? Because that was like a day-to-day, make it better, get better, and then, go through all the things you've gone through, job, school, university, which I'm sure was a pretty penny as well too, then to where you are today, using your hobby as your career.
Right. Cool. Yeah. Well, like I said, I wanted to get my foot in the door to do tattooing. And when I started there, after a little while, like, I had been doing the management for months without really drawing or trying to tattoo or anything. And I was like, okay, I'm going to start practicing drawing. And then I was like, all right, like, can I borrow your machine? Let me order some fake skin. Like, I'm going to start practicing tattooing. And I knew it was going to be hard to tattoo. It's way harder than I thought it was. Like, right. It was like, you have this one little needle and this heavy machine, and everything has to be controlled down to this one like tiny needle point, and the machine's like vibrating while you're holding it. It's like
Right.
it was way more difficult than I thought. My fake skin like practice, it turned out really bad. And I realized that I wanted to be like the best tattoo manager like in the world. That was my goal in my head. I was like, I have to be the best tattoo manager. And I realized that I wasn't gonna, the amount of practice I needed to tattoo and the amount of like effort and dedication I needed to be the best manager and the best tattoo salesman, I was like, I'm not gonna do both of these things. And tattoo careers are often, there's a lot of guys that do it for a long time, but they're often short. Often these guys will do it for like 10 years and then like their back is screwed or their hand is screwed or they're just done with the whole thing. And then they leave, and I didn't feel like those skills would be as transferable as management skills or sales skills. So I ultimately decided I'm gonna give up the tattooing and I'm gonna run this tattoo studio the best I can, and eventually I'm gonna try to open up another tattoo studio. That was my goal.
Yeah, it's crazy even what I see on social media too, like just what you can do with a tattoo now, or like how you can, like the artist, the shadowing, like it, and even just from going from like a drawn tattoo now going all digital, I'm sure makes it a lot more easier, right? You can get somebody's arm already pre-sketched and then do the design on a computer instead of having to draw it by hand, which I'm sure saves a lot of time.
Yeah, they
and
do everything on iPads now.
Yeah.
They'll just take a photo of your arm and then just like design it to fit exactly onto your arm already, right? So tattooing's changed enormously over the last like maybe like 6-7 years, from like the design process to the machines. Now like the majority of the machines are wireless. Like they used to have these old coil machines that are like super loud, make a whole lot of noise, vibrate a lot, and then they switched to like pen machines that were a lot quieter, but they had a cable. Now they're just totally wireless. They run off batteries. You swap the battery once through the day. The design process, like the gun, like I said, the guns, not the guns. I can't believe I just said a tattoo gun. No one says that. It's like an uncool thing to say.
Got it.
You got to say machine. It's a tattoo machine. And then right to the aftercare process. So they used to wrap them, and some people still do. They would wrap it in like saran wrap, or they would wrap it with like these dog like pee pads essentially that will like soak up all the blood and like plasma that like leaks out of the tattoo,
Right.
and you'd have to be changing these constantly. Now they have this thing called Second Skin, which is a super like revolutionary product. It just like is like a piece of plastic similar to like tape that just one sheet goes over the whole tattoo, and then you leave it on for a few days, and you can shower with it on. It's waterproof, and then you take it off after a few days, and your body, what creates a scab is plasma. So you've already leaked all the plasma out, which stays liquid because there's no exposure to oxygen. So it leaves it on, which gives your body a ton of nutrients to heal the tattoo. And then when you peel it off, you just wash all the plasma away, and essentially there's like no scabbing anymore. Like if you do it properly, like I've had tattoos heal that there's just like your skin gets a little flaky, but like there's no scabs whatsoever. And I even had one done on my leg, which like when I took off the bandage and like washed it, like nothing came off my leg. It only happened once ever to me, but it was as if it just absorbed into my skin perfectly.
Wow. Now, do you ever go get like a touch up after, or is it like perfect to what you?
It's perfect. I've never touched it up, and it still looks like the day it was done, like 2 years ago. I don't think I've ever got a touch up, except on a couple finger tattoos. Fingers are really hard to get to stick. If you go too deep, you will like blow out the ink, which means that like it's going to like blur over time, and you basically broke through a barrier, the final barrier, which you're not supposed to break through, and it'll turn into like scarring. So if you ever get any tattoos and the lines are kind of like raised up, it's because the lines are blown out. They went too deep with the tattoo. So if you risk doing that, if you try to go too deep, and if you don't go deep enough, like it's just not going to stick. Like this one I had done 3 times. This one was done twice. Everything else though, I've never had any touch-ups on.
Did you draw your tattoos that you have?
No.
Oh, cool.
No, never try to design your own tattoos. Everyone, please. If you want a tattoo, you find an artist that you like and you let the artist do it.
Right.
And the worst thing you could ever do is bring your mom or your girlfriend with you and try to allow them to design the tattoo in front of the tattoo artist.
Right.
Yeah, but
Right.
that happens a lot.
So a happy tattoo artist is you want to keep them as happy as possible to get the best result. Is kind of
Yeah, a lot of people don't think about that. You know, if you're rude to this guy, or like if you like in front of him, you're like, this is so expensive, and you say things like that, like it's just like, I don't think it's in anyone's human nature to be able to perform at their best when they're like pissed off.
Right.
So when this guy is giving you a piece of art that's gonna be on your body forever, just try not to piss him off. You know, like let him. If he and sometimes people would be like, hey man, like stop like joking around so much, like just focus on my tattoo. You got to remember, these guys are staring at literally one spot for sometimes 13 hours straight. I can't read one page of a book without my eyes like blurring for a second. I have to blink and like refocus, right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, to do your absolute best work, I think you really have to be in a good mood. I think you really have to like be in like a flow state, and you're not going to do that when someone is like, you know, mad that you just made a couple jokes with your buddy or something like that. And when you do that, it puts you in a good mood, and you're able to do, I think, much better work. Right. There is a fine line. I think the customer's time should definitely be respected, and they should always feel like that's the case. But a little bit of like, oh, I'm just gonna go have a smoke and go have a coffee, and then he stops for 2 minutes to talk to his buddy or something, I think it ultimately helps you get a much better tattoo, is when you let them just kind of be in the zone.
Right.
And, you know, if you're getting like a full day tattoo session, like that day's a write-off. You might be there for 6 hours, you might be there for 12 hours. Right. So you just like be patient and let it go as it goes. You know?
Yeah. And just to touch base on some like income, not necessarily your income, like what you've made in the past years, but you know, what is the average of like a tattoo artist could make in a year versus being a tattoo manager?
Yeah, really good tattoo artists, they can make a lot in a year. They can make like 200 grand. Like a good tattoo artist can definitely make like as much as like a basic level like doctor if they really apply themselves. There's people in the world like Ganga from Ganga Tattoo LA. You guys probably don't know him, but in the tattoo industry, he's like super famous. He opened up a shop in LA. He tattooed Drake. He tattoos LeBron James. And then what he did is he really revolutionized the industry. He brought doctors into the whole procedure, and he will have people be put out under anesthetic, and then they'll have like 6 guys tattoo them at once, and they'll finish like a full back tattoo in one day. And the guy experiences no pain. You can search up No Pain by Ganga. It's the name of their page that includes the medical teams. But as you can imagine, when you include like, there's like 6, 7, 8, 9 doctors there, or nurses or whatever, all these medical professionals, you know, you're also putting an upcharge on, you're making a commission essentially on their work too. So that guy is riding around in like Lamborghinis and stuff like that. He's just absolutely balling out. I'm sure he makes way more than 200, 300,000 a year. But the average tattoo artist probably makes like, I don't know, like I work at like the best studio in like the area, but at other studios, I wouldn't be surprised if there were people making like 50,000, like 60,000 a year. It depends on like the quality of your work, and also it depends on the quality of your management team. A lot of tattoo artists know Miami as the place where you're gonna make a lot of money. Like the most I've ever sold an artist for here was like 3,800 for one day. It was a really specific situation, but on average, I don't see it go over 2,500 a day. You know, in Canada, maybe you can be in Toronto area like 3,000 a day if you're like really well known. So in Miami, a tattoo artist there can make like 5,000 US a day, 6,000 US a day. That's what the company's charging. The tattoo artist is maybe getting somewhere around half. It depends on what you've negotiated with the company you're with, right? But everyone thinks like, oh, in Miami, you go there and you make 5,000 a day. That's not true. If you go to Miami and you get to the right management team, you'll make 5,000 a day. The way I understand it is there's one group of guys out there, they own a bunch of shops, and they are like the be all end all of tattoo management. And there's other people out there that are charging $1,000 a day or $2,000 a day like they are here, but it's that management team that is able to get you like the really high numbers. They do really good marketing. Those guys out in Miami, they're bringing in celebrities and stuff like that too. They're trying to, you know, get that social influence to make sure that they get the high-end clientele coming in that'll pay higher money. A lot of people want to pay higher money because they want that tattoo to be amazing and be on them forever. So I think if your management knows how to find those people, and you're also a really quality artist, you can be making ridiculous amounts of money. But then there's guys that'll charge like, you know, 150 an hour, and they only do like a 3-hour tattoo, and there's no other work the rest of the day. So, you know, there's a huge range. And I think it all comes down to like your work ethic, your discipline, and like your belief in yourself and your ability to like network and get in the door with the right people.
Yeah. What's on the next adventure? I know you mentioned that you're an entrepreneur and you definitely love to own your own business. What are the next steps for you?
Yeah. So me and my business partner Jeff, we just started a film studio. It's going to be a place that people come and they rent out space to film music videos or film YouTube videos or any other type of content that they want like a professional looking set for or a unique looking set for. We started making music videos together, I think 15 or 16 weeks ago now. I'm not exactly sure. And we made the goal to put out a music video every week. And we stuck to that. And generally every week we would go to a studio to film them. And we would find them online and we would rent a space. And we're paying out a lot of money, right? It's expensive to use these spaces. And
how much would you spend? You know,
a couple hours could be like $400. It could be like $150. It depends on the studio you're going to. And at the beginning, we were doing longer sessions. Like I remember a couple times we rented a place for like 4 hours because we didn't know what we were doing as much. It just like we couldn't move as fast through what we were doing. Also, sometimes the ideas are more complicated and you really do need that extra time. So yeah, it was, sometimes I'm sure it was like over 400 for a week just for that one video, just to go for a few hours. And we were like, this is from, I think the day one, like we were like, why wouldn't we just open up our own studio like this? And like that feeling just built up and built up and built up. And so we finally hit this breaking point where we met this guy that was trying to sell his studio to us when we got there. And he told us a lot about, you know, the financials and how he started it and how easy it was. And then the next, we just looked at each other and we're like, we have to do this. And the next day we registered a corporation. The day after that, we started trying to book up like meetings with real estate agents to go see places. I think a week later, we found the right place. We signed a lease on it maybe a couple weeks ago, something like that. And we're going to get the keys. We're actually going to grab the keys today and we're going to go there tonight. Not tonight. After we leave here, we're going to go set some stuff up and film a music video again.
Cool.
But yeah, it just seemed like an absolute no-brainer. Like I've always wanted to open a company and like didn't really know what to do. It's also an amazing networking opportunity. I think I've realized in the last like 6 months or so even that the most important part of business is networking. It's really about like shaking people's hands, introducing yourself, making those connections and finding the people that have your money, you know, because all this money's out there. Other people have it. You got to go meet them, right? So one of the best parts about it is that it's a great networking opportunity. As I said, I make music videos, right? I film and direct music videos for my friend Jeff. And I would love to do more of that simply because it is a really great creative outlet for me. I do enjoy it, but it's a great business and I see how it can be a lucrative business. So we have a studio where people are coming to film music videos all the time. I'm going to be meeting all these people and potentially open the door to work with them in the future. So it's kind of like this great synergy with my own personal business of like filmmaking. And for Jeff as a musical artist, it's great for him because you're going to meet all the people in the music industry and, you know, maybe they come with their managers, et cetera, et cetera. So it just seemed like an absolute no-brainer for us. Yeah, we're going to start construction in a couple of days. It's like a 2,300 square foot space. We plan to break it up into like 13 or 14 different rooms. Hopefully open by April 1st, and that'll be a great new endeavor.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I just got offered a position of CMO for Toronto Boat Rentals, which is like a luxury yacht charter company.
No way.
Wow.
So I'm going to be doing that this summer as well. Can't wait for the summer season. Never been on a yacht before. It's going to be a lot of fun.
That's cool.
It's not a boat. It's a yacht.
Right. Yeah. We got to change the name to Toronto Yacht Rentals, but I think
Yeah,
maybe someone already has that or something.
Yeah.
So cut that out because I don't want to say their name, right? I can't talk about the competition.
Yeah. So
right.
what are you guys going to call it? The studio that
It's
you're
called Ego Arrows Studios.
Ego Arrows.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
cool.
So basically to check these guys out, you're going to have a website set up.
Yeah.
website,
We don't have a
Instagram?
website yet. I don't have the .com to plug, but you could
sure.
follow us on Instagram at Ego Eros Studios. And I think the TikTok hasn't been changed yet. But if it hasn't, I'm going to change that today. You can follow us on TikTok at Ego Eros Studios.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you guys are looking for space for a podcast, for a YouTube video, review video, whatever it may be, feel free to reach out to Jesse. And then you also mentioned that you have something else going on, Jesse. Beyond that, you working on another project?
Well, the boats or
Maybe there's a another YouTube channel.
oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I was telling them about the.
There's so much going on.
I know. Well, because you sent me the video of yours where it
Yeah.
was not so fresh, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, this is such a great idea."
Thank you,
because it's so true. And like, there's such great foods when it's cold versus when it's hot.
Yeah. Everyone that we tell the idea to, they're like, "Wow, like that's a really good idea." Like,
Yeah.
it really resonates with them, right? I think there's a definite like audience of like just like beer drinking dudes that are really gonna love it.
Yeah.
So me and my buddy Massimo, we started a YouTube series called Not So Fresh. We wanted to call it Cold Ones because of hot ones.
Sure.
But like
Oh.
5 people already have the name Cold Ones, so we couldn't do that. But yeah, the idea is we try out like popular foods. Probably we're generally gonna stick to like takeout. We're gonna keep it really
Right.
like, I don't know, lowbrow the type of stuff. Just ordering it the day before, keeping it in the fridge for a day, and then ordering the same thing the next day hot. You
That's
try
cool.
it hot, try it cold, and it's no comment on like the restaurants at all or like the quality of the food they make. They're not trying to make cold food for everyone.
Right.
So we keep that in mind, but it's just like kind of showing people like what's gonna hold up well cold the next day.
Right.
I know I've had a lot of nights in the past, not so much anymore, but I would order like Uber Eats late at night and I'd like pass out and like find it on my doorstep like frozen the next day.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah,
And
exactly.
also they're notoriously bad for like taking forever to get you your food, and it's cold when it gets to you anyway. So if you watch this and you know it's going to be great cold, there's no fear of ordering that Uber Eats, you know. You just be like, well, if it's cold, it's going to be great anyway.
Wow.
So
Cool.
yeah, that's the concept of the show. It's been a lot of fun so far. We just finished filming our 3rd episode last night.
Cool.
And we dropped an episode last night as well. So it's Not So Fresh on YouTube if you want to look it up. You can follow our Instagram, which is Not So Fresh Views. If you could report Not So Fresh on Instagram, because that's a dead account with like 4 followers, and they don't see my DMs because they don't log in. And if we could just get them blocked off Instagram, then I would love to take the name Not So Fresh.
Oh,
but
cool.
we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome,
Absolutely.
man.
Well, we're going to wrap things up, but I just want to say, obviously, a huge thank you for coming on the show. Give me some insight of your story, the things that you've gone through. Obviously, thank you for letting us know what, maybe challenging in the earlier years, but now it sounds like it's going to be a successful next 5-10 years to come. But one question we always love to ask, ending the podcast, if you had to give yourself advice when you're 20 years old, what would it be?
Abstain from all drugs and alcohol, exercise every day, eat an incredibly healthy diet, stay away from women, and focus on yourself. You need to be selfish before you can be selfless, and you need to have like ultimate belief in yourself. I've learned recently in life that nothing will bring you more than being disciplined and having confidence. And if you are disciplined and have confidence, you can go after absolutely anything that you want. I mentioned this earlier. There's never been an easier time in the history of mankind to be above average than today. There's people out here are so lazy. If you just apply yourself, you're going to run all these guys over. I think that's like a Dana White quote that I just stole there at the end, but it's very true. That's the advice I would give myself, is just stay healthy, keep your mind clear, and believe in yourself above all else.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Great,
Appreciate it, man.
great advice. For everyone that's listening or watching, just want to say a huge thank you again for being a part of the podcast, watching us grow. Share the video if there's somebody that you have in mind that maybe is interested in getting into being a tattoo artist, or multiple things that Jesse was talking about. Then share this video to them. We want to grow as fast as possible. So thank you so much. Hit the like button. Comment down below what you would like to see on the podcast. Different careers, different jobs that are out there that people do question a lot, and we also have our own ideas coming. So just want to say a huge thank you to everybody for watching and listening, and we will catch you in the next video. Bye, guys.
Peace.